What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, WBA, World Boxing Association, welterweight world champion, Cuban star boxer, Yordenis Ugas, who has 27 wins, 4 losses, no draws, 12 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'9" with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, Yordenis Ugas is going to defend his WBA title in a unification bout against undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer Errol Spence Jr. Right? Errol Spence Jr. is widely considered by many to be top 3 best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Okay, with a record of 27 wins, no loss, and no draw, 21 big wins by way of knockout. He is 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. So he's 3 years younger than Yordenis Ugas. He's a half-inch taller than Yordenis Ugas, and he has a 3-inch arm reach advantage over Yordenis Ugas. Okay, with that said, you know, Yordenis Ugas, he responded back to Errol Spence, you know, saying that, you know, he is going to look to get a knockout April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, this upcoming Saturday. Okay, Errol Spence, he stated that he's looking for the knockout. Okay, it's been a long time, and he's trying to get a knockout over Yordenis Ugas. Okay, Yordenis Ugas comes from the Cuban school of boxing. We already know this. That school of boxing is arguably the best school of boxing. Okay, and Yordenis Ugas, in response, he responded in the manner I thought he was going to respond in, because you look back at his fights, it's telling of his mindset. Yordenis Ugas is not like your normal Cuban school boxer. Yordenis Ugas doesn't move around the ring. And in response, Yordenis Ugas to Errol Spence, he says, "That's great, because I plan to stand right there in the pocket, stand in front of him, trade with him, and fight and look for the knockout myself, just like I did in all my other fights." That cannot be the game plan for Yordenis Ugas to be successful. It can't be. I was asked the other day, what does Yordenis Ugas have to do to be successful against Errol Spence? I can tell you what he can't do: stand in front of Errol Spence. Errol Spence, yes, Yordenis Ugas is a big welterweight. He's strong, but Yordenis Ugas is not a very physical welterweight. Okay, Yordenis Ugas is evident in 31 fights. He has 12 knockouts, so he doesn't have a lot of power. Errol Spence, I believe, is physically, naturally stronger than Yordenis Ugas. Okay, Yordenis Ugas actually fought at 140 at one point in time. Errol Spence has never fought below 147. Okay, Errol Spence is considered to be a big welterweight, as Yordenis Ugas is considered to be a big welterweight, but he has short arms. Another misconception Yordenis Ugas stated was, my arm reach advantage is going to help me out along my ring IQ, but more importantly, my heart is going to see me win this fight. And when Yordenis Ugas said that, I had to take a sip and say to myself, either Yordenis Ugas is misunderstanding who he's fighting, or Yordenis Ugas and his team are just blowing smoke. Because Yordenis Ugas has a 3-inch arm reach disadvantage to Errol Spence. Errol Spence has an arm reach advantage over Yordenis Ugas. Yordenis Ugas, he said that his heart is going to see him win the fight, and he's going to stand in the pocket. That's what you don't want to do with Errol Spence. You want to be able to box Errol Spence. Yordenis Ugas said that he took notes from 2-time welterweight world champion superstar boxer Showtime Shawn Porter, when Shawn Porter was physical on the inside, where Errol Spence stood his ground, and it was a close fight. Well, Yordenis Ugas also is not understanding that Shawn Porter fight is not this version of Errol Spence. And I believe that that was the best version of Shawn Porter that we've ever seen. We haven't seen a better Shawn Porter other than that fight with Errol Spence. I think that was the best version of Shawn Porter we ever seen. But again, that is Shawn Porter's wheelhouse. That is what he does. That's his specialty. Because Shawn Porter has short arms. Because Shawn Porter is short, okay? He's 5'7", okay? So Shawn Porter's not the tallest nor rangy welterweight, and he doesn't have a lot of power like Yordenis Ugas. Oddly enough, Shawn Porter has more knockouts than Yordenis Ugas does. In 35 fights, Shawn Porter has 17 knockouts. He has 5 more knockouts than Yordenis Ugas has, and Yordenis Ugas, and he only has 4 more fights. So Shawn Porter's not the biggest puncher, but neither is Yordenis Ugas. Shawn Porter's not the tallest guy. Now Yordenis Ugas is 2 inches taller than Shawn Porter, but their arm reach is the same. So when Yordenis Ugas is saying that he has an arm reach advantage over Errol Spence, that's not true. You have an arm reach disadvantage when it comes to Errol Spence, okay? And you're not the more physical guy. Yordenis Ugas wants to box. You should want to box. Use angles, move around the ring, pivot, not stand in the pocket. Your normal Cuban school of boxing or boxer, normally Cubans are movers, right? They're very ring savvy. They're very educated on every crevice of the ring, okay? Their ring awareness is very high. Their ability to box on their toes and be slick is very high. Yordenis Ugas is the polar opposite. Now, he does have fast hands. He does put his combinations together very well, okay? And he has a ring IQ. He has a good jab and a good straight right hand. As Shawn Porter put it, he has that Cuban sauce specialty right hand punch that only Cubans throw, right? So yes, he does have a very savvy right hand, but he's very flat-footed without a lot of power. He's void of a lot of power. And Errol Spence is very hungry. Errol Spence has a chip on his shoulder. As Errol Spence stated, this is the meanest he's ever felt that he needed to be in any fight. This is the most hungry he's felt since the Kell Brook fight. And because Errol Spence has a chip on his shoulder, okay? Errol Spence is being doubted. Not only Errol Spence feels like he's doubted and being dismissed, but Errol Spence also has a chip on his shoulder from the fact that Errol Spence has suffered 2 major setbacks. Errol Spence said that he lost his passing of the torch fight and moment with Manny Pacquiao, legendary 8 division world champion, iconic Filipino superstar boxer, whom Yordenis Ugas beat very handily in replacement of Errol Spence when Errol Spence suffered a broken detached retina, okay? So with that said, okay, Errol Spence has a huge chip on his shoulder. 14 months, just 10 days after unifying the belts against Shawn Porter, he suffered a horrific car accident that saw him out the ring for 14 months, okay? And his competitive nature and the chip on his shoulder shows, because in coming back, right, Errol Spence has shown you, I don't want no tune-ups. He wants to show the world I'm still that guy. And what did he say yesterday? It's been a long time since I got a stoppage. Now people starting to question if I'm as physical as I used to be, right? People starting to say, you ain't stopped Mikey Garcia. And another thing is, right, is that Errol Spence is now the man at the top, okay? He was the hunter at one point in time. And now he became the man at the top. He was the boogeyman in the division. And now he became the man. And so every little thing he does or doesn't do, should I say, gets viewed with a magnifying glass and everybody want to critique it. And so that's where the doubt starts to kick in. And so what Errol Spence is saying is, I had that car accident. He only had one fight in 2.5 years, right? Since 2019, it's 2022. He only had the Danny Garcia fight after the Shawn Porter fight, right? So out of sight, out of mind. And then people are questioning, is Errol Spence back? Is he going to be the same? Is the eye going to be the same? You understand? So there's doubts that's there. And Errol Spence, he said that he's taking note and he's hungry. He wants to prove a point. Now, Errol Spence, he said, I'm coming for the stoppage to prove a point. But Errol Spence is smart enough to understand that, like he said, as I told you guys, when everybody started running rampant, that Errol Spence said he's going for the knockout. And I told you guys, no, he's not. If the knockout comes, he's going to let it come to him. Errol Spence is not going to go in the ring from the opening bell looking to knock out Yordenis Ugas. He wants to break him down and get the knockout, but he's not going to just immediately come out the gate looking to knock out Yordenis Ugas, as I told you guys. And then what happened in the interview? Errol Spence reiterates what I told you when he says that if the knockout comes, it comes. If it don't, it don't. I'm good with a decision, right? But Yordenis Ugas can't play into his wheelhouse. Yordenis Ugas can't play his game. You got to give him different looks and different angles, because that dog is going to come. He's coming to prove a point, and he's motivated by being home in front of his fans. And now, see, the fight with Danny Garcia, yeah, it was at AT&T Stadium, Dallas Cowboys Stadium, right? It was his comeback fight, 14-month layoff. But there was doubt in Errol Spence's head. You can see it. And he said it. And he said that he wasn't even 100%. He wasn't as committed. Now he said that he's overly committed, right? And he found a newfound love and respect for the sport. What it, not only his legacy, but what it could provide for his family. He puts food on his family table. And so he understands and respects the sport even more. And so he's even more dedicated and committed. Which means if you're Yordenis Ugas, you don't want to go into the lion's den. You want to lure the lion out the den and then trap it, if you are to be successful. But again, like I told people, when people tell me I'm overlooking Yordenis Ugas, or I am underestimating Yordenis Ugas, or I'm sleeping on Yordenis Ugas. No, I'm not sleeping on Yordenis Ugas. Styles make fights, okay? Yordenis Ugas' style and approach to the sport of boxing is not your typical Cuban school of boxing, okay? Yordenis Ugas is very flat-footed in his approach. Yordenis Ugas is not very mobile, and he doesn't have a lot of power, and that bows right into the hands of what Errol Spence looks to do, what his specialties are. He will break you down, okay? If he don't have to look for you, he'll eventually break you down. Shawn Porter is very durable, okay? Up until the point where Adrian Broner dropped Shawn Porter with a check left hook, a leaping check left hook that got Shawn Porter, right? Up until that point, Shawn Porter wasn't on the deck, and that was late in the fight, right? Where he kind of let his guards down. When Shawn Porter was fighting Errol Spence in the 11th round, when he got in the 10th round, when he got dropped with a hook on the inside, right? That's because of the physicality of Errol Spence. That little check hook on the inside. If Errol Spence would have followed that with a right hand, he may have knocked Shawn Porter out. Because when he hit Shawn Porter with the left, Shawn Porter eyes and head, whole head turned. He couldn't see Errol Spence. So the punch that hurt you the most is the one you don't see. So that check hook that he hit, that left hook he caught him with, boom, right? It rocked Shawn Porter. Now, Shawn Porter couldn't see the right hand. If Errol Spence took a step back instead of following up, right? If Errol Spence didn't take a step back and follow up with a right hand, and Shawn Porter didn't see a right cross right there on the inside, he may have knocked Shawn Porter out. And that's because of the physicality. And that was an Errol Spence that wasn't fully committed to the sport in between, leading up to the fight. He had the weight loss camp opposed to having a strategic camp where he's just simply working on game plan and strategy and preparing for the fighter. So I think it's a mistake on the part of Yordenis Ugas and his team if they don't use angles, if they don't give Errol Spence looks and don't move around the ring. If they decide that they're gonna stand in front of him like they did with Manny Pacquiao, because he's a southpaw, Errol Spence is a southpaw, he's not the typical southpaw that Yordenis Ugas is used to being in the ring with. Manny Pacquiao is 5'5" with a 67-inch arm reach. Errol Spence is 5'9.5", nearly 5'10" with a 72-inch arm reach. He is nearly 5 inches taller than Manny Pacquiao, and he has a 5-inch arm reach advantage over Manny Pacquiao. Okay, and he's a completely different challenge. He's more physical. Manny Pacquiao he's a guy who's always struggled with pure boxers. Manny Pacquiao is a guy who always, had issues with counter punches, okay, with guys with jabs. That's an issue that Manny Pacquiao's always had, because once you're able to get the timing of Manny Pacquiao doesn't make many adjustments. So with that said, Manny Pacquiao, we've seen him outbox before. And yes, he's a southpaw. He has a lot of power in his left hand, but the approach for both guys is completely different. Completely different. It's night and day. It's not even close as to what Manny Pacquiao brings compared to what Errol Spence brings. So if they're basing it off of that southpaw, they're going to be in for a rude awakening. But let's see how this unfolds and plays out. That's all I got for y'all, man. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.